It's a versus battle between two of the hottest high-end Android handsets on the market right now. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and today it's the LG G2 versus the Samsung Galaxy S4. It's a versus battle between two hot Android handsets on the market right now, the LG G2 and the Samsung Galaxy S4. Very similar in a lot of ways, but different in a lot of ways as well. We're going to put that together in the versus battle, mix it all up in some versus battle soup, and see which one comes out on top. That kind of made me hungry, but it's lunchtime. Actually, it's a little late for lunchtime, late lunch on my part. LG G2 over here packing a 2.26 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 800 CPU, a really unique configuration with the power button and volume rocker on the back, a 5.2-inch display that's 1080p, very beautiful display, and it's pretty much for the most part edge-to-edge, making it a really nice display for content consumption. Not too big that you can't put it in your pocket, but not too small that you can't watch YouTube videos and really enjoy it. And it has that unique knock-knock feature you just saw right there, where I can turn the display on and off just by tapping the display itself. Then you have the Samsung Galaxy S4 over here. This is the international version. This one is the AT&T version. Obviously, you've got this on multiple carriers in the US. Samsung Galaxy S4 over here, the international one packs an octa-core processor. One is a quad-core 1.6 gigahertz Cortex A15. The other one is a 1.2 gigahertz Cortex A7. To total, obviously an octa-core CPU. It's got a 5-inch 1080p HD display here, 13 megapixel camera with 1080p HD recording, and I should point out that's what this has as well, but it has the added bonus of optical image stabilization. 2,600 milliamp hour battery here, 3,000 milliamp hour battery here. The difference, the Galaxy S4's is removable, the G2's is not. 4G LTE connectivity if you buy a device on a carrier in the States. This, like I said, is the AT&T version, so you can see it rocking LTE up here on AT&T. International version here, but you can get a Galaxy S4 on Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, and get their respective 4G LTE connectivity, rock and roll on their high-speed networks. So fast, all around. How are they different? We're going to dive in and find out. Both of these are packing Android 4.2 with their own custom user interfaces. This one's running LG's UI, this one's running TouchWiz, and you can see a lot of similarities between these two devices. Both have shortcuts up here in the top. You've got your quick access to toggles where I can change those around, for example. So let's say I don't use Wi-Fi on a regular basis, but I use that darn airplane mode all the time. I can do that and jump right back out, and you can see airplane mode is now an option up top. You can do that over here as well. You can edit and scroll up and down. So airplane mode, obviously important. Let's say Wi-Fi is second most important. I can come over here and Wi-Fi is right there. You get the added benefit on both of these devices of having brightness shortcuts here, and then on the G2, at least on the AT&T side, you have your volume control here is where you can turn up your sound up or down and then make it your own in terms of sound and effects. So volume rocker over on the back side on the G2. Over here, it's on the power button on the right side, volume rocker on the left spine, micro USB charging port at the bottom, 3.5mm headphone jack up top. So design-wise, very similar in a lot of ways here. This one's a little bit more curved on the back, a little bit perhaps easier to hold in the hand. I find this to be very natural. The power button and volume rocker over here on the back. Over here, you've got your buttons on the side, and it's obviously a little bit more of an elongated device, or a little bit thicker. I wouldn't say thick, but just the way that the sides here, if you will, go up and down. And you can see it just in terms of fit in the hand. I can't find the word that I really want to use here, but I'm just going to roll on like it never happened. Buttons down here, sorry about that. Capacitive buttons down here, you can see capacitive home, menu, and back buttons. Here you've got on-screen buttons, back, home, and then menu. Over here, capacitive buttons, menu, back. You can obviously multitask here as well by pressing and holding and making sure that it's activated in the settings, which I'll show you in just a second. Physical home button here as well. Couple benefits here. Snapdragon 800 CPU over here, the octa-core, a little bit older. Snapdragon 800 is the new child of the Snapdragon line of processors rather, made by Qualcomm. And we'll jump into settings here and take a look at these as well. So processor-wise, rocking and rolling on the latest CPU from Qualcomm, and actually the first US device to hit major US carriers with the Snapdragon 800. The Note 3 is getting ready to come out. It also in the US has a Snapdragon 800 CPU. So you can see very similar configuration here in settings as well. They're both tabbed out, and a couple of different options to really make this device fun and customizable. You've got over here My Device. I've got Smart Screen, Air View, and you've got those Samsung TouchWiz features here. Smart Stay, Smart Rotation, Smart Pause, and a lot of these are really awesome features. Smart Pause, for example, the video will pause if you're watching, let's say, a video that you have on your phone. You look away, and you've seen this most likely in the TV commercials, the video will stop playing. You look back, it'll start playing again. Great in a lot of different settings. Smart rotation will rotate according to the orientation of your face. So if you're laying in bed like I often do and you're reading and you kind of turn to the side because you're on your pillow, it'll stay in the proper rotation, which in that case would be portrait orientation. Smart stay here as well. Screen stays on as long as you're looking at it. You can see the eye there on the device and it's tracking that. Smart stay, so the screen will stay on. And then I'll go back here and see Air View, for example, voice control. Air View is another particularly useful one that I find myself enjoying. Information preview, I can turn all these on. I can turn off specific features, but progress preview, speed dial preview, and more. So for example, when I'm moving something, let's say email, I can move the home screens around without actually touching the device itself, and then I can drop that application and plop it right down on the screen. So over here you've got some customization options as well, including this knock knock, which for whatever reason was not working for the first couple of times. One of my personal favorites on this device, the ability to change your on-screen buttons. So you got your typical configuration, but let's say, for example, you're coming over from a Samsung device and you're used to the menu button being on the left side. Well, I can customize those within about 5 seconds, which is really cool and a nice feature. Over here, access to Quick Memo. I've got access to my pull-down notification bar. Right there in my menu, I can customize those buttons, and not only can I customize those, I can change the look as well. So I can change the theme to black if I want to, and so I can always have those black buttons, or I can do gradation versions, or just standard white versions if I want to, or black versions. So screen off effect, another cool feature that I found myself playing with in my time with this device. Black hole, for example, when I turn the device off, that's what it's going to look like. Fade out is what I had it on. Retro TV as well. So when I power it off, the retro TV is there and powers it off, kind of like an old school 80s television. So that's a cool feature also, and then you get a lot of very similar features on the G2. Going to general, actually, you know what, we'll skip back over here to battery, or display rather, and go to smart screen. So you can see it has the video option too. When you're looking at the display, the screen will stay on. When you have the video option here, you can pause the video when you're looking away from the phone. When it can't detect those eyes or your face, it looks away, or the video stops rather. So notification LED here as well, and you can customize that depending on, let's say you get a ton of emails, you don't need the notification for emails, but you do need them for something else like an alarm. You can customize that notification light, which is up here, but there's also one on the back around the power button as well. So a pretty cool little goodie right there. Let's take a look at Quadrant Standard on both of these devices, load it on up and see how it performs in this particular benchmark. Now, one thing I will say, Quadrant Standard, really not indicative of day-to-day performance. I know you guys love this on YouTube, but again, both of these devices are exceptionally fast. Just depends on what you like as a consumer. Another thing I want to point out, 32 gigabytes of internal storage over here, 16 gigs of internal storage over here. You do get a micro SD card slot on the S4, you do not on the G2. So keep that in mind, and as you're playing that pro and con game that you're inevitably playing in your mind, if you're looking at both of these devices, it's worth considering those couple of different things. Also, volume rocker is over on the back of this device, obviously, and then you've got your 3.5mm headphone jack down at the bottom, up top on the Galaxy S4. So a couple things just to consider. I know people are very particular and picky in some ways about their design. Just wanted to point that out as we move forward in this review. So I'll proceed forward with that. 19,161 on the LG G2, 13,084 on the international Galaxy S4. So obviously from a Quadrant Standard perspective, a faster device over on the LG G2, but both of these are exceptionally speedy in day-to-day performance with little to no lag all around. So you're going to be happy with either one of these units. They're both very fast. You shouldn't have anything to worry about on either high-end Android device. Also want to take a look at the app drawers real quick here, and then we'll finalize everything with the camera and we'll sign out. But you can see apps and widget shortcuts over here. Your download folder over on the S4. Over here, the ability to quickly uninstall stuff. For example, my AT&T, if I don't want it, you know what, we'll remove it. And I can take advantage of that and get rid of that application. When I'm done, I can go over here and search for apps if I want to, or I can go back to my widgets, which I have shortcuts to both over on these devices. So that's a cool little feature. And then last but not least, the camera. Both of these are 13 megapixel cameras, and I just really want to walk through a couple of the different settings you have on both of these units. Very similar in a lot of ways. You got dual shot on the Galaxy S4. You also have that capability. Cheese shutter over here, I can turn on, and when I say cheese, it'll automatically take the picture. And then white balance, ISO, all the typical stuff over on the S4, including the ability to flip the camera. And I'll go back into mode here so you can see that. And I can come down and say dual camera, dual shot, different naming on both of these devices. And you can see right there my dual shot on both units. And likewise, I have the ability to change. Let's see if I can get that to click. There we go. A couple of different dual shot options. Very similar in terms of UI and the camera. Both are 13 megapixel cameras. I would give a slight edge to the LG G2's camera. The optical image stabilization is quite nice, and I find the camera to take overall better pictures depending on the lighting situation. So keep that in mind. Both of these are awesome devices. It's a really tough call, like anything else in today's high-end Android space, because I like the software of the Galaxy S4 better. You get a ton of awesome value adds in TouchWiz. There's a great story to be told in the software here. And a lot of those features I find myself using on a day-to-day basis, so a lot of people kind of complain they're gimmicky. I use them on my phone on a regular basis. My mom, my family, people that have Samsung devices in my life, the Galaxy S4 or the Note 2, for example, use a lot of those features and find them particularly useful. Over here, the G2, fantastically fast. If you're looking for the latest and greatest in terms of specs and you don't like the Note 3, take a look at the LG G2. It feels great in the hand. I like the power button configuration on the back. But overall, software goes to Galaxy S4, hardware and overall processing power goes to the G2. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for more versus battles and dog fights. We do both around here on PhoneDog.com and on the YouTube channel. I'm on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron. I'm on Facebook at Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker. Let me know which device you prefer the most. And as always, I'll see you next time.